A large boom heard in Winnebago County last night as people talking. Terry Software tracked down the source and talked to some people rattled by the noise.
A loud boom at about 6 last night heard around town becomes today's talk of the town.
What was that? Then we all went looking for flames or something, just something to show outside, but there was nothing.
And we heard this boom and I looked at my wife and said, was that thunder? And we just kind of shrugged it off.
Tonight, a mysterious noise is plaguing a northwest Atlanta community and keeping neighbors up through the night. Channel 2's Rachel Stockman is live on DuPont Commons Circle, where she tried to get to the bottom of what neighbors are hearing all night.
Since we've been out here since about 3 this afternoon, we've heard this sound about 5 or 6 different times. It's pretty loud in person. Our mic, unfortunately, doesn't pick it up that well. It sounds a bit like a tornado siren.
Sky lit up, and so did the 911 phone lines. Police fielding hundreds of calls from people who saw a blazing fireball or who heard what sounded like an explosion.
You can see the fireball on this dash cam video and look at it here on this police cruiser cam. NASA confirming to ABC News it was a meteor, 4 feet long, 4,000 pounds, traveling 55,000 miles per hour.
It looked like it was across, like in towards Mexico.
Just last week, people in several states saw fireballs racing through the sky. And overseas, check out this one streaking over Japan. And right now, the time to be looking up. 3 different meteor showers peppering Earth, meaning we'll see more of these images that are out of this world.
A massive storm in the Bering Sea off the western Alaska coast and to the east of Russia, strengthened enough to be considered the strongest storm that the turbulent region has ever seen.
From space, you quickly get the sense Typhoon Nuri is a beast. Already threatening to whip up 50-foot waves like these as it heads towards Alaska's Aleutian Islands, the storm also threatens to send a chill through millions of Americans. Nuri is so powerful it's going to create a buckle in the jet stream over the U.S.,
literally changing the course of the jet stream,
releasing a wave of bitter cold.
We already had a taste last weekend, up to 21 inches of snow in parts of Maine.
A tropical cyclone and torrential rainfall hit the Sicilian coast on Friday and continued until about 8 a.m. local time on Saturday.
The wind swept debris into the air as people were forced to take shelter indoors.
The U.S. Geological Survey reported that a moderate earthquake of magnitude 5.5 struck the south shore of Kyrgyzstan's Lake Issyk Kul today. The quake, which struck at 7:24 a.m. local time, was very shallow and a depth of only 6.2 miles that would have amplified its effect. The epicenter was located 8 miles east town of Kadzisay and 149 miles east-south of the capital Bishkek. A magnitude of 5.5 earthquake is capable of causing substantial damage.
A strong undersea earthquake has hit Indonesia, but damage was limited and no casualties have been reported. The 7.1 quake was recorded off the Molucca Islands and strongly felt in several cities. It caused some power cuts in Manado, but the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in Hawaii says there is no risk of hazardous tsunamis in the aftermath of the quake.
Well, moving on now, and we want to begin Newsday at the moment with this developing news from New Zealand. The east coast of the North Island was in the last hour or so rocked by a 6.5 magnitude quake, and it happened just after 11:30 local time.
It was felt widely across the North Island, from Whangarei in the north to the top of the South Island. Also reports of it being felt in Nelson. There have been no reports of injury or of damage.
The deadly floodwaters that killed 6 people in just one day. In the region of Le Gard in southern France, this car carried a couple and their 2 infant sons. Rescue workers managed to help the father out, but could only watch as the car was swept away with his wife and children. Witnesses say the waters rose dangerously fast.
Floods and landslides have killed at least 3 people along the Swiss-Italian border. The region of Ticino has been battered by weeks of torrential rain, which worsened when Lake Lugano broke its banks and Lake Maggiore threatened to do the same.
And across the border in Genoa, in northern Italy, this police footage shows a similar landslip, which killed 2 people. It's after torrential rain and storms hit the region over several days. City streets became rivers, with muddy water gushing along them.
The results of weeks of severe storms across northern Italy. The scene from this town near Genoa is a snapshot of the region. People are being warned to stay indoors because of the risk of being swept away. Emergency teams dispatched to the worst affected areas are trying to pump water away, but the land is so waterlogged and the rain keeps falling, it's proving a tough battle.
In the past 2 weeks, they've had as much rainfall as they would normally get in a whole year.
Good evening, and we begin with that state of emergency. More than 4 feet of snow in 24 hours, and tonight 225 million Americans dealing with frigid cold. Drivers trapped on highways, part of a key interstate in upstate New York closed. Travel bans in effect as we head into the night. And look at this time lapse in Buffalo, New York, of the snow rolling in over that city. Lake effect is not new there, but this is severe and early. Many saying the worst in memory. This image from the New York State Thruway, covered in several feet of snow. You can see the tire tracks there.
Record-breaking cold for millions and an incredible wintry mess across the Great Lakes. In just 24 hours, over 4 feet of lake effect snow pounding the region, whiteout conditions, and drifts up to 7 feet.
From the north in Michigan, treacherous driving all the way to the south. Record cold tonight in Georgia. The National Weather Service reporting more than 1,000 records shattered with this system.
Because temperatures in all 50 U.S. states dipped to freezing or below. Winter has come early in most parts, including Hawaii.
This incredible time-lapse video showing just how quickly the freeze hit. This lake in Washington State going from liquid to ice in just a few hours.
No doubt about it, we are witnessing some historic cold for this time of the year. When we looked at this morning's temperatures, we had 86% of the lower 48 below freezing, a sub-freezing temperature in every state. It's the coldest November morning since 1976, decades ago.
Black road in Russia, suddenly alive with a mysterious flash of light that turns night there into day. Look at that. The dazzling sight caught on dashboard camera and seen for miles.
So far, scientists have no clear explanation as to what caused the flash.
And today the state will release numbers on how much water individual Californians are using. For the first time, State Water Resources Control Board will go public with per capita data. It's being used to determine which communities are conserving the most and which need to do more.
Strong aftershocks could continue for the next week after an earthquake today in central Japan. Close to 500 were forced from their homes by the quake, which was centered near Nagano.
The magnitude 6.2 earthquake struck near Nagano City. The shock radiated through homes and businesses. People at the local TV station scrambled for cover. It knocked out power to 1,600 homes and triggered a landslide in Nagano, blocking and damaging roads.
Over in China, an earthquake with a magnitude of 6.3 rocked Sichuan province in southwestern China on Saturday, killing 2 people. Roughly 60 people were injured during a stampede at an elementary school. The state-run Xinhua news agency says authorities are still trying to assess the extent of the casualties.
A volcano has erupted on the Cape Verde Islands, forcing hundreds of residents to flee their homes and the local airport to close. It's the first time the volcano on the island of Fogo has erupted since 1995. The archipelago lies around 600 kilometers off the west coast of Africa.
Floods triggered by torrential rain have killed at least 32 people in southern Morocco. Most victims were swept away by swollen rivers, which also submerged cars, buildings and roads. The storms of recent days have been described as the worst in decades.
And some incredible video this morning of a massive tornado tearing across a field near Dundee, South Africa. Pictures and videos like this one are popping up all over social media sites. No injuries reported here, but several homes were apparently damaged in that storm. That is just huge. Force of nature there.
A fireball shooting across the sky. You can see it here, a man running out in his yard to capture it. And this dashcam video shows another angle. Comments came pouring in on social media claiming the fireball was fake, but that's not what a local astronomer says.
What I saw was perfectly consistent with a bright fireball from a large meteor in the atmosphere, much like the one that exploded over Russia a couple of years ago.
Take a look at this map from the American Meteor Society. You can see other reports from Oklahoma City to Muskogee and even Texas last week, making the fireball seem real.
The fact that it was seen over widespread areas is also consistent with this being an actual fireball that went over Oklahoma.
Emergency crews are slowly restoring power to thousands of homes across Sydney after fierce thunderstorms. 3 people were struck by lightning from a total of 3,000 recorded lightning strikes across the greater Sydney region. There's also heavy rain and wind gusts of up to 80 kilometres an hour, bringing down trees. The lightning sparked several bushfires.
Well, now we have basically the shaking. God says, yet once more am I going to shake the heavens and the earth. And the shaking is going on in all realms. Even in the scripture, there's a scripture that says, shake yourselves. In other words, wake up. We're going to see class warfare. We're going to see the earthquakes, the volcanoes, the hurricanes, tsunamis, droughts, fires. It's going to come at us fast and furious. We're going to see judgment in all realms.
Woman in Melbourne, Australia disappeared in her own backyard the other day. The 45-year-old woman was hanging laundry to dry when the ground just opened up, swallowed her up. She dropped about 10 feet into a sinkhole filled with waist-deep water.
Now the clean-up is continuing this morning in Brisbane after the city was absolutely smashed by a massive hailstorm.
Power lines were brought down, roofs ripped from buildings and streets flooded. Eamon, good morning to you. This was the biggest storm the city's seen in, what was it, 30 years, they're saying?
30 years.
Wow.
Yes, they're saying 30 years. The Weather Bureau is also saying it's pretty much one of the worst storms you'll see anywhere in Australia. Really caught a lot of people off guard. A month's average rainfall dumped in about half an hour, so that caused flash flooding throughout the city. So the Insurance Council of Australia has labelled this a catastrophic event.
Flash floods caused by torrential rain in the south of France have left at least 4 people dead and 2 missing. Fields were turned into lakes, streets into rivers, as the latest in a series of autumn storms caused havoc. Further west at Sérignan, a mini tornado on Friday morning left a scene of devastation.
Meteorological officials say smoke from Kyushu's Mount Aso in southwestern Japan rose about 1.5 kilometers into the air on Thursday. They say they believe a magma eruption is underway. It's the first time in 19 years that smoke from the volcano has gone this high. The volcanic ash is affecting airline travel as well.
The United Nations declares a state of emergency in Gaza City following 2 days of heavy rains and flooding in the war-ravaged Palestinian enclave. UNRWA said it is very concerned about such severe storms in the wake of unprecedented damage and destruction caused by the recent 7-week Israeli offensive.